Oh, great. More Sonic. Exactly what the world needs. Where do I even begin? The Knuckles the Echidna TV show for Paramount Plus is the 6-episode streaming event meant to bridge the gap between the second Sonic movie and the upcoming third. I barely even acknowledge the existence of Paramount Sonic stuff in my videos, and that's not because I dislike it, it's just because it doesn't really have anything to do with the things I do want to talk about. In actuality, it took me well over a year to watch the first Sonic movie. Obviously, the reveal trailer with that hideous design was a bad first impression, but even after it got fixed, I still didn't feel like watching it because Sonic running around Earth with a human main character just felt like such a corporate premise for a Sonic film that I couldn't be asked. When I did finally see it, it wasn't the utter cringe fest I thought it would be. It was alright. When the second film was clearly working in more concepts from the actual Sonic games, I was pretty intrigued. I took my cousins to see that when it came out, and they really enjoyed it, and I thought it was good fun too. Nothing particularly mind-blowing, but as a longtime fan, I enjoyed it. The second Sonic movie was the first time in a very long time that Knuckles was treated as a character worth a damn, and so this Idris Elba portrayal of Knuckles became immediately popular. And so a spin-off series starring Knuckles was announced later that year, and we finally have access to it. I can't say I was excited for it. In fact, I wasn't planning on watching it at all. But when the headlines came in that Knuckles is barely in his own show, I wondered, what could that possibly mean? So I decided I'd join my Discord pals and see if it was truly so bad. I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog has been home to some real junk, especially when you look past the video games. How bad could it possibly be? Well, I watched this, and I could only think of one thing.
This is the worst show I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm dead serious. This is one of the dumbest pieces of shit I've ever seen. I felt the same watching this as I did Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. We watched that in the Discord VC as well. It was really bad, trust me. The Knuckles show was everything I thought the first Sonic movie would be, only even worse. Each episode felt more excruciating to watch than the last, with a paper-thin plot you could predict the ending of from the very beginning, almost no funny lines or good characters. It was horrendous. But to explain why, I should probably start from the beginning. The whole routine with movie Knuckles is that since he's not accustomed to how things work on Earth, he's a character with an endless supply of fish-out-of-water type gags. The first 10 minutes of episode 1 are all about this, as he harasses these contractors at the house and captures mailmen and things like that. It's a pretty predictable set of gags. However, the portion of this show spent with Knuckles alongside Sonic and Tails at the house is the show at its best, since it's the thing you came to see. As you no doubt know by now, the real focus of the Knuckles TV show is Wade Whipple, who I had to remember the existence of. He was a side joke character in the Sonic movies who was kind of a hopeless doofus. Completely forgettable character, but he's the main character of the Knuckles series, as it turns out that he's on this bowling team that seeks to win the tournament in Rena, while rogue gun agents try to capture Knuckles and turn him over to this crazy machinist who once worked with Robotnik. Honestly, episode 1 wasn't really so bad. I thought it was in trouble once gags about bowling and Wade arguing with a little kid went on for an eternity, but this was the best episode and was the one where it felt like Knuckles was the main character and was doing things the most. But he's captured at the end and rescued in episode 2. This is the one I remembered the least after watching it, since the entire plot is just Wade planning and executing his Knuckles rescue mission. The second episode is when you realize that Wade is the actual main character of this show, but as a comedic lead, nothing here really lands. Just predictable jokes or basic slapstick and gags concerning how incompetent he is while Knuckles doesn't understand how Earth works. It's just not original, and it certainly isn't working here. But the problem is that episodes 1 and 2 are merely set up for the rest of the show, and you really need to be on board with Wade as the main character because episodes 3 through 6 are when his life is the main focus of the entire thing. In episode 3, Knuckles and Wade arrive at his mother's house, and what I thought was going to last a few minutes became the entire episode. Knuckles stands around not really knowing how music works, something that I already made a gag out of in the previous episode. While meeting Wade's mother and his sister, he gets education about their Jewish customs, which I have to say was the most straight out of nowhere element in any Sonic thing I've ever seen. I just never thought I'd be watching a show about Knuckles where an older woman keeps wondering if he's Jewish or not, alluding to the Holocaust, and when the FBI agent's sister inspects Knuckles from every angle, let's say, and then they cut to flashbacks about crazy family dinners gone awry. It's not like I'm standing here trying to say that this is just not allowed to be in the show, because I'm not a TV writer, those decisions aren't up to me, but with how it's executed here, I don't know how I could have any reaction to this other than a pure, what the fuck am I watching? The whole thing just feels really random and like pure brain rot. And that's the thing with comedy. I love to laugh. Many of my favorite shows are comedies for that very reason. My taste in humor tends to skew towards awkward situations, but you can make comedies where random ass shit happens and have it be really funny. But the writing needs to be really clever and creative to do so, like older SpongeBob or Regular Show. That's the most random show I've ever seen, but the setups are so funny and the characters are so good that it becomes a part of the appeal. As I said before, the Knuckles show is one where all the gags just feel so predictable and done to death by other low-quality comedies, and it does nothing to overcome that fact. It just sucks. And then when it's not doing stuff that's really predictable, it's just doing things that are really weirdly out of place. Episode 4 begins with Wade getting captured by his former bowling teammate, who I guess is a professional bounty hunter. And the moment I saw Knuckles say that Wade needed to rescue himself was the instant I knew that meant the entire episode was going to be Wade with almost no Knuckles, and I was correct. This utter non-joke character who has done nothing interesting to earn this much solo screen time, complete with a music number and Wade arguing with children and more gags you've seen before. Like the one where Wade can't hear his opponent from down the road. I guess it's a funny idea on paper, but when you let it run too long, it stops being funny, and it's also only funny if you ignore the fact that this joke has been done before. It was just a bad episode. It's the one episode where you learn the most about the backstory of this Knuckles, and yet he's in it for like 20 seconds. The show also features extended scenes with a ghost of the Echidna tribe leader, Pachacamac, but this is also made into a joke, completely overlooking this character's history of war, not just in Sonic Adventure the game, but also just the actual movies that came out with the similar backstory. And now I must clarify that I'm not sitting here asking for some serious Knuckles show with dramatic stakes, I'm just asking for some consistency, you know? By the end of episode 5, I was just so done with this. The climax of the Knuckles TV show is a bowling tournament. I just wanted to stop watching it, but we were all doing it in the VC, so on we went. Witnessing some of the most bizarre character writing I've seen in a spell. Like when Wade starts getting suckered into his dad's lies and he tells his mom that, well, that was your relationship with him, which will have no bearing on mine. Which I just thought was such a weird direction to take the characters, even for a brief scene. Like, is that supposed to be funny? Like, the backstory from this very show is that this man left his whole family for bowling, and they state how hard it was for the mom character to pick up the pieces, but Wade is like, yeah, that sure must have sucked for you. The arc is that he sees through his dad within the span of the next 10 minutes, but I just have no idea what anybody was thinking with this. Knuckles outright disappearing from the story for large chunks of time in the show bearing his own name. Like I said, that's honestly what I thought the first Sonic movie was going to be, a crap fest about a human character with Sonic tossed in on the side, but it really wasn't. This Knuckles show is the lowest expectations I had for the Sonic movie brought to life, and it is awful. The last episode just never ends. Your brain is turned to absolute mush, so whatever's going on in this action scene goes in one ear or out the other. The moral of the story is that Knuckles has found family or whatever, when I already felt like that was the ending of Sonic Movie 2, and I highly doubt anything that happens here will have a slight impact on the characters and story of Sonic Movie 3. But yeah, this was just terrible to watch. We didn't laugh, it wasn't a good story, and I'm sorry. I do believe I can criticize the Knuckles show for making him a side character to a minor background character in his family in the Knuckles series. That's just such a misfire on a conceptual level. This really comes off like the kind of thing that was greenlit and put into production well before there was a story anybody wanted to tell. Paramount was like, damn, people like Knuckles? Give him a show! And they realized, crap, animating these Sonic characters in CG costs a lot, so Sonic and Tails will barely be in it, and Knuckles will take a gradual backseat in his own show to the point where he's barely in it by the end, and will fill in the rest with complete and utter bullshit. As a comedy, it just fails. It does not do anything well that hasn't been done a million times before, and it completely sucks the life out of you while watching. Whenever I see anything made for kids, I tend to just look at it on a sliding scale with 3 major points on it. From, wow, that was really heartfelt, what a great movie, on one end, to, well, that was harmless, even laughed a few times, but it's nothing special, in the middle, to, oh god, it's only been 5 minutes, on the bottom of the barrel, and that's exactly how I felt watching this. I truly cannot think of a single appeal that this streaming event has besides it featuring Sonic and Knuckles. There are so many things you could make a Knuckles show about, even in this continuity. The lore of the Master Emerald, his friendship with Sonic, his actual relationship with his fellow Echidnas before they were gone. Something in that list could have produced a heartfelt story, or at least something perfectly harmless, but what we got was a cacophony of noise centering on a bowling tournament. I just think this is the kind of thing you make when you need to cash in, have a recognizable IP to do it with, and expect your audience to just eat that shit up, because it's a recognizable IP. Something Sega has done with Sonic so many times, forcing unfinished or terrible products to market that it's easier to count the times that they haven't. This Paramount Plus Knuckles show is just another example. It seems like a lot of Sonic fans are not taking kindly to this show on social media, and I was pretty happy to see that. Because there's gotta be a limit to how much brand loyalty can exist before the standards straight up become non-existent. I do not believe this was a good show, both in terms of what it could have been and in terms of what it tried to be. For kids, don't make them watch this crap, have them watch something good like Spider-Verse or whatever. Or even the Sonic movies, I think those are plenty good enough, even if they aren't the most amazing thing you'll ever see. As a piece of Sonic media, this flops, and from any lens besides that, it drops the ball even harder. Hope to never see this again for the rest of my life. If you did enjoy it, well, more power to you. And if you haven't seen it, and you're still curious about it, feel free to give it a shot and say what you felt about it. I'm not really in this review business because I want to tell people what they should think. I can only speak for myself, and I thought this was terrible. But having said that, I'm still optimistic for Sonic Movie 3. I mean, Shadow's gonna be in it, and that means Sonic Adventure 2 is the main game being adapted, and I just find that an exciting prospect. If the movie's at the same level of quality or better than that of the second movie, I think I'll have a fun time with it. But I'll let you know what I thought of it when it finally releases in December. But until that time comes, I'll close the video by saying what I always do. If you made it this far into the video, you've seen everything. Go outside.